welcome to the Mantras podcast, or whatever it will be. My name's Paige.
My name's Angela.
And we're going to talk a little bit about what Mantras is and how we know each other, and just some exciting things we've interacted in together. So, how did you first find out about Mantras?
It was through you. So I was doing my yoga teacher training, and when you mentioned it to the group, I was like, this is like perfect transition from that to this. I realized like community was something I was really wanting to be a part of.
Yeah, that is true. We had a really great YTT program too, like unique. I feel like everyone was in that phase where they wanted community.
Yes.
And it was like, cool. Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
It was exciting. I know that during YTT, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to kind of throw it out there because that was the women's side of the book club hadn't started too long before that, I don't think.
No, I think you were mentioning, we're looking for women to join, and I kind of looked into it a little bit. You sent some information like to it. It's like, this is so, like, I really liked what I heard from Brian, and just what it stands for and what they're doing. So I was excited about
that. Awesome, cool. Yeah. And then what about your background made you interested in mantras, or what would you say that stood out that made you curious to learn more about it?
I think people be willing to have conversations that everyone choose to shy away from. And that's something that I personally do in my personal relationships with friends. And people tell me all the time, like, oh, I feel like I can be myself with you. I can talk about things that I don't feel like I can talk about, and kind of get me. I've noticed people wanting to be more like themselves instead of wearing these masks. And that's what really drew me to mantras, is like the willingness for people to take off their masks and be seen by other people in a vulnerable way.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. And I will say I can definitely see how you would look for something like that. Cause like I experience you as someone who you are really well spoken. And even when you say things about like what you share, how you spoke to something, or like a boundary you set, I'm always like, wow, like that's amazing. So I could see how it would be like a breath of fresh air to come into a community or a group of people that also do that instead of like society or the normal ways of more of like superficial conversations.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I know you've contributed so much to like book club, and it's hard to even say like contributed, because I feel like you were kind of a part of like how it evolved. So more so like you've been a great like part of the creation of it.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where things go.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully you'll teach us yoga one day.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And then, is there anything else that's on your mind?
So when you mentioned, I feel like my first experience with mantras was one of the book clubs. I started with a book of joy. I remember walking in and I was like, immediately, because something I do really well is knowing how to observe a situation and knowing how to show up in a way that is like, okay, who's the most powerful person in the room? And like, how do I make sure that they see me in a certain way? And I came into this space and I was like, oh, I can't do that here. And the reason why is that like the level of emotional intelligence in the room and from some of the facilitators, I was like, okay, this is really uncomfortable, because who I try to pretend to be is not going to be, I don't have to do that. How do I say this? Uncomfortable in a way that, kind of like what you said, when like you experience me as being able to set boundaries and have conversations in a way that's like pretty direct, but kind of afraid. A lot of people are afraid to do. I felt like I walked into a space where I'm like, oh, people here are doing that and sounds like they have done it, and they've done personal like training around having authentic conversations without kind of losing track of it. Yeah, I just remember walking in and thinking, this is a space where I can't hide who I am. Does that make sense? Yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah. And that's edgy, right? Like,
that's me. Even talking about it, I think it's like, yeah,
that's amazing. And so I heard you say that what you would normally do, and correct me if I'm wrong, is walk into a room and find the most intelligent or powerful or impactful person.
Mhm.
And then what? Like, what would have been your go-to norm? Like, once you identified in that group, like, who was the most intelligent?
Probably,
then.
sorry to cut you off.
No, good.
Probably try to seek some sort of external validation and try to be like, oh, I can meet you where you're at, and that's not necessary all the time. Like, I don't need somebody else to see me in that way. I can just be myself. And that's how it felt. That was the biggest difference that I felt. Like, I can just be myself, even if that looks like I'm having like the worst day ever. I can show up and people can hold that and say, like, that's what humanity is. That's what reality is that you're not always perfect. Yeah.
That's very cool. Um, oh, the computer pop-ups. Yeah, I had a question and I lost it. Yeah. What I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it is. I like that for me, it's an incredible container that like I can show up on my worst days and also like really edgy, but I think it speaks to the container that we create, because there's a lot of places that like my go-to is on my worst days. Like, I prefer to be alone. And so for me to find a container that I'm willing to like push that edge or repattern that is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I actually agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay, there's something different about this group that makes it feel like I can go to that edge and see what it's like and like really lean into change.
Yeah. So as you're saying that, what that reminds me, same, because I tend to, well, if I just isolate and figure this out on my own and then come back when I'm okay, then but then are you really dealing with it? And I think about two things. One, like, the problems didn't start on our own. They started like usually within family or around other people and like relationally. And we need to be, I feel like, in relationship to be able to heal some of those problems. And two, I think of when you say this container is unique in that I feel like people can hold a space where I'm empowered, that I have the tools and skills necessary to get myself to a place where I can go to that edge and go lean into the activation without feeling like somebody is trying to save me, because then how effective is that? So being encouraged to just being challenged enough to where it feels safe and people aren't, it feels, when I safe, people aren't saving me and expecting that yeah, it just feels very empowering. I can use my own tools and I'm guided to understand things, even if it's not like in the moment in the container. There's like an opportunity for self-reflection and then coming back and saying, hey, this is kind of this came up for me, and other people were like, oh, I would love to help figure out how to help you with that. And also, people reflecting back to me, oh, I actually saw that. I saw you have a reaction and I saw that take place. And it's like, wow, somebody was present enough to witness my experience. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's neat. Yeah. And I love how the container is like you said, like you can kind of go to that edge and try to figure it out, but it's also like people aren't going to rescue you. And like, let's say someone like accidentally does or does, and maybe you needed, like, for at least me, like maybe I need a little more time like in that uncomfortableness to figure my way out. Like, I think it's beautiful that we have the language and the understanding too, to be like, hey, like just a minute, like I want to see if I can go there. Like, I remember there was one book club where like we dove like straight into like my core wound, and we were following a thread, and it was like someone said something really profound, and then there was a couple other people that said other things, but I was able to be like, hang on, hold on, like we just found a thread right there. So if we can go down that and then just pause the other ones.
Yeah.
So it's neat to be in a container where it's like, we can have those threads in the awareness and then be like, oh, like this one seems really useful and I want to go there, and like, let's hold the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for people to be like present enough and grounded enough to hear that, right? Because it's not me saying like, I don't want to hear what you have to say. It's more so me saying like, this seems really powerful and like, I'd like to see where that goes and then hear what the other things are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say that, like, was that for like you understanding that for the dynamic of the whole, like noticing a thread and wanting to go down that, or was it for yourself? For
that particular experience was my own.
Okay.
We went like straight, we were talking about the mindful millionaire and like money stories, and how for me in certain scenarios it was easier to go and get a different job that paid me what I wanted to get paid than to go to my employer and say like, hey, I think I'm worth this, because that opened like the doors directly up to my core wound of that person or that parent being able to, or that respected figure being able to say like, you're not worth what I'm paying you, or you're not worth what we're paying you. And that was like, that like takes me straight back to certain memories. And so that was like the core wound that we started to go down.
Yeah.
And someone asked something really powerfully, and I forget exactly what it was, but it was like, oh, like that's the next level of thought, or the next level of like going upstream to the wound or to the experience, and how do I unpattern it?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that that's what it, like, I think what happens in those moments is like when somebody is held in that way in a group, then other people feel encouraged to do the same.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that like people that continue to show up, like their willingness to be vulnerable, it like people like, okay, people start to realize like this is what this is for, and so we can it becomes like this rippling out to other people that this is an opportunity for us to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing that makes us like powerful in that is like we go into those scenarios with like questionings, like making sure that's okay for the other person.
Yeah.
You know, and then also, like you said, like giving them enough time to kind of figure it out. And if they can't, then like we have the tools as a collective to like help them get out of it. But yeah, so kind of like hold them in that inquiry if they're willing to go there.
Yeah.
And if they're not, like the nice thing is that we don't really have like a desired outcome or a plan. And so it's not like, oh, like we have to go to this depth or like it doesn't work. You know, it's like, okay, cool. Like if you want to loop back around to it next week, like we can, or if not, like great. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you have any like specific instances or groups that were like really profound for you, or?
Yeah. I was thinking of like a experience early December where I felt activated by some of the topics we were discussing. I think it was also the Mindful Millionaire book that we're currently reading. And I remember, I think multiple people were feeling activated, and I didn't see that until like we all reflected on it later. And I remember feeling like I didn't know how to ask for what I needed in that moment. And I think what the beautiful thing about this was I was able to the next day in the chat say, hey, like I actually felt activated, would love to dive into this a little bit more. And so we had a little smaller group that we had on the side that we were able to dive in a little bit more on the topic. And although it wasn't like we came to some huge resolution, it just felt like there was an opportunity for me to continue going to that area that I felt uncomfortable, and I wasn't alone in processing it. Like wasn't like, oh, I had this experience. I didn't know how to ask for help in the moment. I circled back and asked for help later, and I was able to kind of understand that, oh, I can really lean into this and be able to. And I think what the shift happened was there was a moment when I was, there was a moment of like, there was a choice of, do I remain closed? I noticed myself like close off, or do I choose vulnerability and see where that goes? And I chose vulnerability. And I think it was like such a huge shift in the way that my willingness to like connect with other people, especially with women. I think specifically it was like it happened in the women's container. So my willingness to be vulnerable with other women. And yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Like one way I hear that too is that you had like an activation or an experience that felt similar to something that you've had before and then had a different outcome.
Yes. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's amazing. Was that one that we had a phone call about?
You and I, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was that.
Yeah, I remember that. And I remember like being really grateful that we did get to follow up and talk to it, because then I was able to like give my perspective of like, yeah, absolutely. Like I noticed that going on, and I didn't have the tools in that moment to know exactly what to do, right? And I heard you say like you didn't know exactly what to do in the moment, so you were able to loop back around to it, and I was able to loop back around to it, and I think that's incredible. Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things that I noticed is like the willingness of everybody to learn, like your willingness to learn and say, oh, I didn't know how to do this, and what can we do differently, and how can we learn and grow from the situation, and I think opportunities for that instead of, yeah, I think that's what's really unique about it, is that there's always, you present in a way that's like, I can listen to what's going on, and you were able to see that bird's eye view in that situation, because for me, I was focused on like what's going on with me, and I didn't know how to speak to it. And yet there were so many other things going on in that moment. So yeah, it's really nice.
That's cool. Yeah. And I love the opportunities and like the conversations that we get to have about it, like reflecting on it, right? Because I get to hear like your perspective in this scenario, like your perspective and your experience, and then honor that, right? And like whatever was going on for you was absolutely true.
Yeah.
And then I got to share mine and just be like, yeah, like I remember like kind of essentially like looking down on the nest and being like, the baby birds are popping off, and like I don't have any tools in my wings right now to like to know what to do. And also like with that being said too, of like the awareness that like people were physiologically safe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was just like, oh, okay, like there's a lot of different things coming up. And honestly, it's beautiful that we have a container where we can go into conversations where it brings things up for people.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that speaks to the first part about it not being like superficial.
Right. I think that was the main thing for me in that experience, was I could have continued that narrative of like, I can't trust other women, and that there's like competition, like unhealthy competition and comparison, versus willingness to be vulnerable actually deepened real authentic connection. That was the experience that I had.
Yeah. And I feel like that was probably one of the containers and experiences that like kind of really shifted us into kind of like diving deeper. And I think that was a beautiful experience of like, there was several people that had different experiences in that moment that we were able to like drop back into and talk about and learn from. And then, just like be human together and realize that even in our different activations, like none of us went after each other. We were all just in self-inquiry.
Yeah.
And like, okay, do I, because my pattern in that scenario was like, okay, well, I don't know what to do in this scenario. I'm clearly not a perfect person, and maybe I shouldn't be leading it. And so to me, my edge was like, because I learned like, you leave until you're perfect, and then when you're perfect, you can come back.
Right.
And so showing up every Tuesday to this container has been like a total edge. Like I haven't necessarily facilitated anything like this. Like I've done my own work. And so it is like showing up imperfectly. And like you said, like for me, especially in a room full of women, like that's terrifying. And like, that's the work in itself. And to be in a container where like we all respect that of each other and hold each other in that is really neat. And something I didn't think I'd ever experience with women.
I think it's been even outside of just this container, right? Like it's everywhere. I start to shift and see things differently. Even in my day-to-day, like going to work and coworkers and things like that.
That's amazing.
So I think it's very important to have this type of space.
Yeah. Well, cool. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being, honestly, a great role model and example.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for letting me figure out who I am and like what's coming next. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, that feels pretty great. Yeah. Okay. Anything else that you want to share or mention?
I think I know the men do like sacred combat.
Yeah.
I think that would be great for us to do it as well.
Yeah, that would be
Eventually.
cool. Yeah, I know there's a couple women that do jujitsu,
Okay.
and then this Saturday, actually, it's the second time, M1 Combats does a women's self-defense
Okay.
class on Saturdays. And it's like 2 hours. So I went to it last month and I'm gonna go again this month. I think they would like hold the container really well.
Oh, okay. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah. So I think the men's sacred combat is like a combination of like boxing and stuff. So I don't know if like a combo of self-defense or jujitsu would be kind of like something that you would think would be fun.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. And I think the guys also have like a jujitsu once a month,
Okay.
an open mat. Yeah. Cool. Maybe we should see if there's any, do you know Sacred Combat?
I don't. No,
Okay.
no. That's why it's something I want to like, yeah, get into.
Yeah. That'd be fun. Cool. All right. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Always nice to see you. You too.
All right. Thank you all.
Bye.